Lovely to see you all. If we've not met before, we are wordpower. We spend all our days with businesses helping them with AI enablement. Uh, and each month we do one free session called the Power Up. My name is Daph, also joined by Liz, Tom, and Cody. If you want to give us a wave. Nice waving. And yeah, for our profile pictures, I went with a bit of a World Cup theme today. Nice and topical. This is probably the closest I will come to living my dream of winning the World Cup. Uh, and if you want to get involved as well, Liz is going to drop a prompt in the chat. Feel free to make your own World Cup profile picture and yeah, share it with everyone if you're feeling brave. It would be lovely to see. It's quite fun because it picks which country you're going to play for. Obviously, for the girls, it both picked Team USA. I'm England. Tom, I think you're Argentina.
I'll take it.
It's pretty good. It's pretty good. It's not bad. That's us. Huge shout out to our friends at School of Social. And thanks so much for sponsoring the session. If you don't know SOS, they provide fantastic training and strategy on all things social. So if social is something you're trying to crack, definitely get in touch with them. Link is in the chat. That's us. That's and SOS, but you're definitely involved in this session as well. Be lovely to chat to you. Please come off mute, use your microphone. Please use the chat and get ready to get hands-on as well with your favorite AI tool. And hopefully you brought a couple of writing examples with you for writing you'd like to emulate. But if not, we've got your back as well, and we can provide something. But Tom, why are we here today? Why are we here talking about writing?
Yeah, we think writing is one of the most powerful use cases with AI. Large language models are made to consume huge amounts of text that can produce and write huge amounts of text, but there's definitely a way to do this right and a way to do this wrong. So we thought of a metaphor maybe to help us think about how we think of writing with AI. So we think of the transition from kind of old school writing to writing with AI as similar to an individual musician moving to becoming a DJ. So when a musician becomes a DJ, they spend less time playing an individual instrument, more time mixing the song and kind of thinking about the overall impact. And similarly, if you spend less time on copywriting details, you can think about the effectiveness of your content that you're producing and kind of focus your role as an editor instead of just a copywriter. DJs cover a lot of different songs and genres, and similarly, and they also have a signature sound aside that. Similarly, you very much should have a persona to your authentic writing, but at other times you might assume the persona of a brand you're writing on behalf of, perhaps a customer of yours, perhaps internal communications versus external communications are kind of different genres. So when you're writing with AI, you have a lot more flexibility and control maybe than traditional writing. When a DJ set is done right, nobody's thinking about the turntables or the equipment. They're just enjoying the vibes and the music. And similarly, when you're using AI in your writing, you don't really want it to feel like you're using AI in your writing. And that's not because you're trying to disguise it, but it's because you're trying to create the best overall content for the consumer. And then the last to beat this analogy to death, we think DJs are not right for every situation, right? DJs don't do well in a coffee shop. They do better at a wedding or a party or things like that. And similarly, you need to be judicious with when you're using AI writing in order to avoid this kind of AI slop world that you see where people are overusing and over relying on AI for situations where it's not totally appropriate. So we'll definitely spend some time today talking about those different situations where we want to deploy AI in our writing.
Cool, love it. Nice analogy. So here's the flow of today's session. We're going to talk a little bit about, when it is appropriate to use AI for writing, as Tom mentioned. We're going to teach AI our voice or our brand's voice, and then we're going to use that voice profile to create some new writing. But let's tackle that kind of elephant in the room of when is it appropriate to use AI for writing and when is it not. And we'd love your opinions to start with. So we're going to share a few scenarios, and I'd like your opinion on whether it's okay to get AI's assistant, and if it is, kind of how much assistance from AI. So the first scenario is an all-staff email about a sensitive topic, and please write in chat a number between 0 and 10. 0 is you need to be writing this 100% yourself. 5 is use it as a useful sidekick. You do a bit of drafting, maybe ideate, etc. 10 is kind of totally appropriate to use AI for this scenario. What do you think? Okay, super. Got a nice range from there, from nines all the way down to five. Hannah, how come you rated this a five?
I think it just depends on the topic. I think it's, helpful to have a couple of ideas, but I think it just depends on what the sensitive topic is.
Yeah, I mean I think that's a really good point. If it is a really high stakes topic, if it's really sensitive, I think if you had AI tells in your writing, or if it even smelled a bit of AI, I think that would be pretty inappropriate. So yeah, definitely is a bit on the medium to lower scale on that one. How about this scenario? A weekly reporting summary to a client. So every week you're sending them a report and with a bit of commentary. Nine. Yeah, bit higher here. Dan, do you want to tell us why you went for a nine?
So in my business, we do this at scale, and it's impossible to write hundreds of these emails manually without AI.
Yeah, that's it. And I think there's a degree of expectation from the audience as well that what you're getting is on a regular basis, and it might well be AI written. There's no need for that kind of personal human touch in the same way. How about this one? A LinkedIn post sharing lessons learned. What do people think? Okay, sixes, fives. Yeah, okay, some medium scores here. Wendelin, how come you went with a three on this one?
I think you want to be more personal in these types of posts, and it could come across not personal when you're sharing a lesson that you've learned and more personal information in there.
Yeah, I think that's right. Yeah, it probably depends a bit your relationship with your audience and their expectations. But if it is quite a personal message that you're sharing, yeah, definitely. I think there needs to be more driven by you, maybe with a bit of AI's help. And finally, website copy for a new product page. What number do you think on this one, everybody? Nines, tens, sixes. Yeah, I think that's right. There's, a lot more expectation that the product website is written by AI. It's not coming from a particular individual. So hopefully you see from that little experiment that, there's two things at play here. One, it's kind of a personal preference. Everyone has a different place on the scale about how comfortable they are using AI. But also, there's a lot of factors involved. Things like the audience, how well you know them, what their expectations are, the stakes, what happens if it goes wrong, how sensitive is the topic that's being discussed. The channel, a message in Slack is quite different from, formal communications. Repetition is another factor. How often is this kind of communication coming out? And finally, and probably most importantly, the stage. What part of the process is it that AI is helping you with? Because it's okay getting, quite a bit of help early on, but you have to be much more mindful as you're creating the final version. Tom, anything to add on that?
Yeah, I think you could really argue you could use AI for writing at if you're comfortable coming at these different stages, there might be an opportunity to use AI for writing in almost any sort of writing project. Very early drafting and coming up with ideas. It doesn't matter if the outcome is that sensitive, right? But when we're talking about places where we don't want to use AI, we're likely talking about that final output and like actually writing the copy, right? So I think the stage is a key lever to think about. If you're early and you're still ideating, lots of opportunity to use AI.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, super. Let's go one step deeper. So next we're going to teach AI our voice before actually creating some unique original writing as well. And the key factor here is examples are the best way to teach AI your voice. It's just like when you're teaching a toddler to do something, it's much better to show them how to do it rather than tell them how to do it. It's just the same with AI, providing examples is a super effective way of doing it. And depending on what kind of content you want to write, there's different ways to do this. If you're writing emails and other similar comms, connect your email via an app connector to your AI. We talked about this in the last Power Up. And once connected, tell AI to review your emails from the last 30 days and learn how you write. If you want to do a lot of social media drafting, like the School of Social team, you can download your previous LinkedIn posts and train AI based on those examples. If you want to do some speech writing or you want to have writing that sounds quite like how you speak, you dictate to AI. All AI tools these days have a microphone button. Just spend 10 minutes talking with your AI about anything. It was amazing how much it will learn from that. And then finally, if you want to teach your brand style, there's so much brand comms out there available to you, your newsletters, your website, etc. So all of that is fantastic input. And then what do you do when you've got that input? Well, essentially, you want to build a style guide. You're probably familiar with writing style guide, but this is a document that every comms team has so that writers can follow the brand voice. So they can be used for brands, but they're also great for individuals. And this is the process we're going to be walking through today. So we're going to create that style guide, and then we're going to use it for some new writing. But let's get hands-on. For today's activity, we're going to pretend that we all work for Liquid Death. I don't know if you know this brand, but we chose them because they have a super distinctive brand and they have a super distinctive brand voice. It's super direct, it's very cutting, it's very funny. In this scenario, they're launching a new product, this sparkling tea, and we'll need to tell the world about it. So we're going to create a brand voice based on either, our writing or our newsletter, if you've brought something with you, or we can base it on Liquid Death's voice to create that style guide. And Tom is going to do this with us. Tom, do you want to pull up, what are you using today? Is it ChatGPT?
I'm going to go with ChatGPT. We like to mix it up. Some months we're doing Claude, some are doing ChatGPT. For writing with AI, like I mentioned, since large language models are so good at this, you can use nearly any platform. Folks have preferences for one or another, but we think if you do the setup right and use the right workflow, nearly any AI tool can be great at writing. So I'm here in ChatGPT. For our demo, I'm going to leave things on medium so it goes a little faster. So feel free to kind of slide up your model closer to instant or a light mode, depending on the tool that you're using. I also have mine in a temporary chat because my ChatGPT already knows how I speak, and I'm going to show you how I'm going to create this writing guide kind of from scratch as if it doesn't. So I'm going to drop in here the prompt from our prompt pack. I think you have that in the file you got emailed earlier today, or we're going to be dropping those in live. And I'll walk you through exactly what those say. So here's our first prompt. Review the source material below and create a writing style guide that I can use to recreate writing in this voice in the future. And then I ask you to detail a few key elements in the style guide. I'm going to tell it to include the complete source material for reference. So my style guide is going to have these exact examples included within it. But then also I'm going to have it pull out some of those quotes to show off some of the specific points that we want to include in the guide. So showcase some very specific characteristics that we want included. And we like to include before or after text. So kind of like text and information without the style guide applied, and then information with the style guide applied, so you can see how things change based on our persona. We have this little section here to knock out common AI tells. So we're going to add a rule here that don't use your common AI expressions, don't use M dashes, these hard pivot setups. If you do a lot of writing with AI or you read a lot of writing, you might see things like, here's what people don't get. Here's the thing. And the AI is like kind of constantly trying to set you up for the next step. That's become a trope that you want to avoid. So we have a few of these included here, some of AI's favorite words. You're welcome to add to this or find this over time. The point is not to hide that we're using AI so much as it is to have the voice reflect the things that we want to use. And the brand that we're talking about today doesn't say delve a lot, and they don't use M dashes every sentence, right? So it's not about being inauthentic. It's about being authentic, I would say. And then lastly, we say, here's your source material to create the guide. So if you brought some writing, you can go ahead and paste that right down there. I'm going to hop into the PDF we shared and copy these Liquid Death examples and paste these in here. I'm just pasting that right here in my chat. So we have
Liz has also pasted those into the chat window if you want to use those.
Great. So 3 product descriptions. And generally speaking, there's this rule of 3 where if you include 3 examples, a lot of times things seem to come to life. If you include 1 or 2 examples, the AI writing tends to follow it a little too literally. So get to at least 3, maybe 4, maybe 6 even.
And Tom, if you're doing this for real, I guess you could give it your website URL and it could go away and crawl.
Yep.
And I guess you could upload, a lot of documents, your newsletters, etc. What are some good practices here?
Yeah, you had also mentioned earlier using connectors like your email connector to go grab your emails. So we could say something like hop into my Gmail and grab the last 10 weekly reporting write-ups and use those as the source for your guide, right? And it's a specific type of communication that it's going to grab and it's going to use as your examples. Yeah, all sorts of different ways you could get that in here. You could upload documents, but the important part is ideally 3 examples.
Hey, Tom, quick question.
Yeah.
When you think about internal, external, are you creating different languages for each? So I think
Big
about
time.
connecting Gmail, sent emails for clients, sent emails for internal. Are you creating 2 models?
Totally different. Yeah, 2 style guides in that case. Yeah. So folks who do a lot of writing with AI in their accounts, in their ChatGPT, their Claude, whatever have you, will have a few different projects or custom GPTs or however you arrange your prompts. One for weekly reporting emails, one for social media posts, one for product pages, like whatever the copy is. And each one of those gets its own style guide so that it follows that faithfully. So yeah, it's an important distinction. This is not for every comms that I want to come out of my ChatGPT account. This is for a certain types of comms. So you might end up with many style guides. Yeah, great question. So in ChatGPT, it actually wrote this in a little document. So I could totally download this. I could totally copy it. And then you get the idea. You might have several of these things that you use. So here's the style guide that it came back to me with. It starts out by summarizing the voice again for Liquid Death. This is punchy, rebellious, flavor forward, and aggressive. Includes some examples right here of what it means by that. Some description of the tone of voice. It's bold and confrontational. It's darkly playful. And again, it's including examples each time to make that totally clear. Sentence style and structure. So there's certain lengths of sentences. There's way that sentences are arranged next to each other. It's sharing exact examples of that. Contrast, this idea that we set something up and then we totally pivot hard on it. So these are stylistic, these are structural, they're grammar related, they're style related. Vocabulary and word choice, this is a popular one or an important one. This is also a good opportunity to call out the words that we don't want included. Use numbers to make claims concrete, so including certain statistics.
And so I'm guessing at this stage, Tom, you're reviewing it with a fine-tooth comb, making sure that anything that's included here does sound like you and not fake.
Yes, and almost certainly I might ask for some changes too. I might say, hey, can we include more examples or can we go deeper on this point or we overemphasize something? But yeah, this is something you want to spend time with. When you're done, this is intellectual property. This is a useful document that you can then use in the future to create any content that you want to look and feel like this.
And where would you save that document? How would you use it?
Yeah, so I think the simplest thing to do is make a project in your account, which you do over here on the sidebar. And then you could have projects that are for each tone of voice that you want to create within. So I think that'd be the simplest way to do it. You can make a custom GPT. There's kind of some other flavors. You can make a gem in Gemini, but you basically want to lock it into your account somewhere you can go back to it and then fire this off to create content. Okay. So yeah, I'm in ChatGPT. I dropped the prompt. And then in ChatGPT, it makes this little canvas. It's called, different platforms might do this in different ways, but it essentially writes the style guide into a little document that I can preview.
And would you prefer that as an MD file, PDF, document, any preferences? Anything is fine?
It's really the text that you're after. So yeah, a text file would be fine, but it's really, I would copy this text and paste it right into a project instructions to use this again in the future.
Cool. Okay, super. Any questions about creating the style guide first? No. Cool. Let's go ahead and use it. Tom, talk us through this stage.
Put it to work. All right. So let's say we just got an email and it's from the website team. They say we need new copy for a new product. So help me write fresh content in line with the style guide based on this information. This feels like a real life scenario. Maybe you have just this kind of not super colorful informational chunk of data, and you're gonna have to stylize this and actually write it into something. One little trick here that we love to do is sort of slow down the process. So again, as going back to our DJ metaphor, as you're kind of thinking about the overall impact of your work more than just the copywriting, why don't you spend a little time working through different angles, kind of like spending time on the narrative before you actually put pen to paper and writing things out. So let's start with that. Gives us an opportunity to impress our personal opinions and perspectives on the work. So it gives me a few options. Energy drinks are basically neon chaos in a can. Most sweet teas have way too much sugar. Tea has been boring. So let's combine 1 and 2. Maybe if I had other perspectives, I'd supply that here. I was thinking of this idea, right? You're kind of riffing with the AI on the narrative.
And
Here's
so
a
Tom's example was obviously using the product page descriptions from Liquid Death, and so that's the style guide it created. But if you used your your own emails here as your example material, it's going to now spit out a email, hopefully written in your tone of voice, announcing to the world about this new product.
Yep. So let's say we are happy about the narrative. I'm going to say, great, let's draft the complete copy here. And now it can actually start writing things out for us. So here's our new product, Liquid Death Sparkling Tea. Most energy drinks are neon chaos in a can, and most canned sweet teas are sugar bombs pretending to be refreshment. So you get this really colorful language in line with how Liquid Death talks. You get the stats included that we wanted included, but it includes them, again, in kind of a punchy way, saying things like infinitely recyclable, including some colorful language. So hopefully you get the sense here of how we created that style guide quickly. We kind of faithfully reproduced language in the same theme, and we took that raw information and colorized it to create our final copy that we end up shipping.
How are folks following along? Did you manage to get some writing out using your style guide? If yes, let us know on microphone or in the chat. And Tom, what would you do now that you've got this draft? Is it done, or does it then require some editing?
Yeah, 2 things I'm going to do here. I mean, really 3. 1, I likely will ask for iterations. So give me 3 of these, 5 of these, and I'll kind of start to pick between them. I then will hone in on 1 iteration or 1 version and keep iterating further and kind of dialing that in. And then almost certainly at the end, I'm going to click this edit button and I'm going to come in here manually and I'm going to make a few word changes or move a couple things around. Again, just leaving my human fingerprints on the work. So yeah, the last thing you want to do is get your copy and ship it off and not think critically about it. This is definitely your opportunity to, again, go slowly because you're saving time from the copywriting and think really hard about the impact that's actually being driven by your copy.
Love it. Yeah, just launched the poll as well. Would love your feedback on this session before we wrap up. One thing I would highly recommend folks do is after they've done the editing that Tom has described, go back and edit your style guide. Obviously, it didn't nail it 100%. There were some things you wanted to change, or use AI to firstly identify what those differences were, and then edit your style guide accordingly. So, prompt, compare these 2 bits of writing, the final draft versus the original one. What were the main differences? Verify those, and then go ahead and update your style guide accordingly. So your style guide shouldn't be, once and done and forget about. It should be something you continually edit and improve over time. So it'll get better, and then all of your writing going forward gets better every time you use it. Super. Thanks, Tom. Thanks for demoing. Hopefully everyone followed along. Here's a quick summary of what we covered today. So firstly, if you want to use AI to help with writing, feed it your examples. That's the most powerful way of teaching it. Secondly, your ideas still matter the most. You need to make sure you've got your human fingerprints all over your writing. It needs your ideas, your perspective, your thoughts. Refine as you go. So not only refine the output, but refine your writing guide as well, improve it over time. And then fourth, but most importantly, is what we talked about at the top. Be super mindful about when you use your AI for writing. It's super relevant and important in certain situations, and in others, it's really inappropriate to use. So make sure you're kind of getting that balance right. You don't want AI slop, and you don't want reactions from your teammates that your content is AI written when it should really come from you as a human. There's 2 questions in the chat. Thank you, Jeremy. 1, are there LLMs regularly learning what good writing looks like and what's being generated and published? Tom, how does this work?
Unfortunately, I'd say the opposite is happening. As more and more AI written content gets placed all over the internet, and as AI models go to use public internet information as training data, AI is being trained on AI writing. So this problem doesn't seem to be getting better. The same AI tropes that were visible in AI writing a few years ago are still very much visible in AI writing today in our experience. So no, I would say they're not actually getting better, unfortunately. And that second question, should we write in a closed environment, perhaps with a closed knowledge base? I think you're asking about making sure it only contemplates the information that you give it. That could be a fine approach, but the larger point being you always want to be mindful of what your AI is accessing when it's writing. Is it going through your G drive? Is it doing web searches? Is it just contemplating the information you gave it? So I think if that's your point, yes, you kind of want to be mindful of that.
And is that just a matter of controlling the sources that it's accessing in the toggle when you're prompting?
Yes, and watching what it does, because as AI systems become more agentic, they try harder. They might do things like go pull public examples of writing and choose to use that because they're dying to impress you and they can, right? So just kind of watching the flow of the conversation and keeping it contained.
Yeah, love it. Okay, super. Thanks for the great questions, Jeremy. Our next session is on generating images. Tom, tell us a bit about that.
Yeah, so we've gotten some asks about going deeper on image generation. So we're going to do that next month, and we're going to focus the session largely on managing use cases. A lot of folks who are knowledge workers think of image generation as kind of a novelty, but there's actually some really productive ways you can use it in your day-to-day that give you time back, make your presentations better, make your marketing efforts better. So we'll be going deep on different use cases and trying to talk about how to limit the time you spend tweaking and getting to the output that you want.
Awesome. Yeah, please do sign up. Liz has pasted the link in the chat. But that is it for today. We are perfectly on time. Thank you so much for joining us. Really enjoyed today, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks, everyone. See you next month.